Kate Sloan carefully pushed her cleaning cart down the long aisle of the factory floor, the hum of machinery echoing around her. The air smelled of grease and metal, punctuated by the occasional hiss of steam. Dressed in a faded blue uniform with scuffed boots, she moved methodically, wiping down conveyor belts and control panels. It was just another midday shift, but even after years of this routine, there was a quiet sense of pride in the small details she attended to. Her hands worked in practiced motions, but beneath her calm exterior was a lingering weariness, years of early mornings and late nights etched into her features. The oversized factory wasn't just a workplace for Kate, it was a second home, filled with the sounds and smells she had come to know intimately. Nearby, a group of young interns clustered together, their white hard hats perched precariously and their eagerness barely contained. Among them, Michael stood out with a cocky grin and a swagger that seemed to fill the space around him. He led the group on this informal tour, throwing glances toward Kate that carried a hint of disdain. To him, she was little more than part of the background, a fixture in scrubs and scuffed boots that didn't belong in the real work zone they were now exploring. Michael broke the uneasy quiet with a loud jab, his voice carrying across the factory floor. "Hey, look at that, the legendary Kate Sloan, keeping the place clean," he mocked, loud enough for others to hear. "Bet you don't even know how half these machines work." The interns chuckled, eyes fixed on Kate. She paused briefly, her fingers tightening around the rag in her hand. A quiet smile flitted across her lips, polite, but defensive. The sting was familiar, but she said nothing. The machines carried on their relentless rhythm, but beneath the surface, an unsettled tension had taken hold. The intern's laughter echoed across the factory floor, sharp and brittle like broken glass. Michael's comments took a sharper edge, fueled by the amused eyes of his peers and the sparse crowd that had begun to gather around. "Look at those old boots," he jabbed, nodding toward Kate's worn footwear. "Bet they've never kicked a wrench or checked a gauge. You just sweep up the dirt, right? Real important stuff." Kate's heart sank, the familiar mix of shame and frustration curling in her chest. She lowered her gaze briefly, focusing on the rag in her hand, then lifted it to continue wiping a nearby conveyor belt as if the very act could insulate her from their scorn. Around her, the factory smelled of oil and heated metal, sharp and biting in the cold fluorescent light. The sound of machines continued unabated, a loud mechanical drone undercutting the human cacophony. A few more workers glanced over at the scene, their expressions a blend of sympathy and unease. No one stepped forward to challenge Michael. The interns seemed to wield their youth-like armor, confident that their status, temporary and still tenuous, gave them license to belittle anyone who didn't wear a safety vest or carry a clipboard. "Maybe if you tried learning something, you'd understand what these machines do," Michael sneered, folding his arms. "But you'd rather play janitor and watch from the sidelines, I guess." His tone grew louder, sharpened with cruelty. "You're like wallpaper, there, but invisible." Kate could feel the weight of every eye in the factory, some curious, others impatient with the disturbance. Sweat prickled at her brow despite the cool air circulating through the vents. She swallowed hard, the bitterness of humiliation mixing with a stubborn flare of defiance. She wasn't about to let these interns reduce her to a punchline, not without saying something. "Everyone's got their role here," she said quietly, voice steady though soft. "Cleaning keeps the machines running and the work safe. You might see it as small, but it's necessary." She glanced up. "Besides, who knows the machines better? The ones who use them every day or those who just watch?" Michael's smirk faltered for half a second before he shrugged. "Whatever you say. Just don't get in the way of real work." An uneasy silence settled, broken only by the scraping sound of Kate's rag against metal. She felt the sting of their mockery deeper than the words conveyed, uncomfortable under the spotlight even as the crowd's attention seemed to shift. She turned away, moving slowly toward the exit of the main floor, her cheeks warm with embarrassment. But Michael wasn't finished. "Hey, Kate," he called out, loud enough to guarantee more eyes on her. "Why don't you show us? If you really know so much about these machines, prove it. Fix something for us?" The other interns echoed with laughter, some shouting encouragement. The challenge lingered in the air like a dare thrown into quicksilver. Kate hesitated, the pressure mounting, but more than that, a deep reluctance to showcase herself in a place where she was already a target. "I'm just here to keep everything clean," she murmured, stepping away. The words came out quieter than she intended, barely audible over the murmur of the plant. She wanted nothing more than to escape the spotlight, but the laughter followed her like a shadow. The factory workers watched, some shifting uncomfortably in place, others with a faint curiosity, waiting to see what would happen next. Kate's stomach tightened. It felt as though the entire plant was holding its breath. Michael strode forward, blocking her path smoothly, his grin widening with self-satisfaction. "No hiding now, Kate. If you can't do more than clean, you might as well prove it. Come on, show us you're not just a joke." For a moment, Kate considered refusing outright, walking away defiantly, but she knew that would only fuel their cruelty further. Instead, she took a deep breath, steadying herself. "All right," she said. "But don't get your hopes up." As the young interns exchanged surprised glances, Kate moved toward a bank of control panels, machines that had hummed without interruption all day. Michael followed closely, the others trailing behind, their laughter subsiding into expectant silence. Kate's fingers brushed lightly over the controls, tracing familiar contours that her routine maintenance wiped clean every day. She knelt to inspect a console, noting minor dust accumulation and a few smudges, but nothing that would stall operations. Her hands worked expertly, turning knobs and flipping switches with the calm confidence of someone who understood machines not just as obstacles but as living systems. The interns watched skeptically, arms folded, ready to laugh at any sign of hesitation. Michael's expression was unreadable, but beneath his bravado lay a flicker of doubt. Suddenly, the factory floor changed. Without warning, the loud, steady drone of machinery dropped to nothing. The giant conveyor belt stopped mid-move, robotic arms froze in awkward positions, and screens blinked out. A heavy, unnatural silence filled the vast plant like a held breath. Confused murmurs ripped through the scattered group. Michael's smile dissolved into a frown of disbelief. "What the hell?" Kate's heart skipped a beat, but without hesitation, she stood and moved toward the main electrical panel, the heartbeat of the factory systems. The interns fell back, whispering among themselves, eyes wide. Workers nearby began to gather cautiously, unsure if it was a technical malfunction or something worse. Kate ran her hand along the cool steel of the panel, her fingers immediately detecting a faint vibration, a signal many overlook, but to her, a call she recognized. Her years of familiarity kicked in like muscle memory. She opened the panel carefully, eyes scanning cables and circuit breakers. "Probably a tripped breaker," she said softly, more to herself than anyone else. Michael edged closer. "You gonna fix it then, Kate? Or just stand there?" Kate didn't answer. She found the specific breaker, noticing it had shifted to the off position. With a practiced motion, she flipped it back on, and a soft hum rose as power returned to the machines. Lights blinked back on, motors rumbled to life, and the conveyor belts creaked, slowly reigniting their steady motion. The factory breathed again, buzzing louder than before. Workers exchanged relieved glances. The interns, once cocky and loud, now seemed small, swallowed by surprised silence. Michael's face flushed, a mixture of embarrassment and grudging respect replacing his earlier arrogance. A woman standing nearby whispered, "I didn't know she knew all that." "Guess we were wrong." Several others nodded, their view of Kate shifting in a heartbeat. The grime around her fingernails, her plain uniform, they momentarily vanished, replaced by recognition of a deep, practical knowledge honed over years. Kate wiped her hands on her pants, a faint smile touching her lips despite the lingering heat in her cheeks. She looked at the interns, who avoided her gaze, their laughter replaced by silence. Michael cleared his throat, though no words came. The moment hung heavy between them, a reversal none expected. Without fanfare, Kate returned to her cleaning duties, the ordeal settling gently in her mind. Around her, the factory had regained its noisy vitality, but the atmosphere had subtly shifted, as if the balance between respect and dismissal had been recalibrated, quietly but irrevocably. The factory floor hummed with a cautious energy as Kate approached the control panel, her heart steady but her mind alert. The sudden silence of the machines still echoed around her, a heavy emptiness where familiar mechanical rhythms had danced mere moments before. Workers and interns had gathered a cautious circle, their eyes locked onto her every move, anticipation mingling with whispered doubts. Kate knelt beside the main electrical box, deft fingers tracing the lines of dust and grime she had come to know intimately over years of cleaning. Her eyes narrowed as she examined the breakers, switches, and wiring like a seasoned engineer despite her humble role as a cleaner. Years ago, she had been exactly that, an engineer, before life's twists redirected her path. But the knowledge she'd stored carefully throughout the years surfaced now, ready to turn the tide. The machines, they stopped because a breaker tripped, she said softly, voice steady despite the weight of hundreds of eyes watching her. It's a safety measure. When something strains the electrical system, the breaker shuts off to prevent further damage. Michael, standing just behind the skeptical interns, cocked his head with disbelief. So, the janitor knows how to fix this, huh? Maybe we really did underestimate you, he said, his tone teasing but fraying under the pressure of surprise. Kate didn't reply to the jab. Instead, she focused on the small red switch that had flipped to the off position. Without hesitation, she flipped it back up. The factory throbbed back to life, machines sputtering as their power restored, belts rolling forward, robotic arms completing frozen movements. Screens blinked on, illuminating the control room with their glow. A buzz of amazement erupted from the crowd. She did it, whispered one worker, amazed. Another added, how did she know that? Michael's earlier confidence drained away, his laughter vanished as he lowered his gaze. The intern's smug smirks dissolved into sheepish silence. Some shifted uneasily, clearly uncomfortable at being wrong. A few glances exchanged among the older workers showed a mix of respect and newfound appreciation for the woman who had just saved the day. Gus, a grizzled senior mechanic, stepped forward, breaking the tension with a broad smile and a chuckle. Well, I'll be damned, Kate. You've got more under your belt than I thought. He clapped her firmly on the shoulder, the gesture both friendly and admiring. Maybe we should get you on the maintenance team. Kate returned his smile quietly, brushing dust off her hands. I'm happy where I am, she said humbly. But I'm glad I could help. Michael shuffled awkwardly, then cleared his throat. Guess I jumped to conclusions, he said grudgingly. You're not just the cleaner after all. Kate looked towards him calmly. Judging someone by their job or appearance limits what you see. Everyone contributes in their own way, and everyone can surprise you if you listen. The interns, chastened and now silent, exchanged glances as the realization sank in. As the factory's hum settled back into its familiar rhythm, the invisible walls between roles softened, if only a little. Later, as the shift ended, Kate stood by the exit, quietly observing. A few workers approached her, offering thanks and a respectful nod. The same interns who had mocked her earlier now looked at her with hesitant admiration. When Michael came by to offer a brief, almost shy, compliment, she accepted with a polite smile. The day's events left a subtle but powerful shift in the atmosphere, a reminder that beneath every uniform, every role, there can lie unexpected expertise and quiet strength. As Kate stepped outside into the cool evening air, she felt a gentle warmth, a sense that despite her simple appearance, her knowledge and resilience had found their voice at last. She pulled out her phone and called a close friend, ready to share the story that had reshaped how others saw her, and how she saw herself. The bustle of the factory quieted into evening calm as Kate gathered her belongings and prepared to leave for the day. The soft glow of the setting sun filtered through the high windows, casting long shadows over the worn concrete floor. In the dimming light, she looked every bit the part of a humble cleaner: faded blue uniform, scuffed boots, and a mop bucket patiently waiting nearby. Yet behind those unassuming eyes lay a story few had glimpsed and even fewer understood. Years ago, Kate had been a bright and driven engineer, fresh out of university, with dreams of designing machines that would change industries. She had thrived in the technical world, spending long hours poring over blueprints and troubleshooting mechanical systems. But life had its own timetable. When her children were born, Kate chose to step back from the high-pressure engineering role to find a steadier, quieter place to work, somewhere she could contribute without sacrificing the precious time she wanted to spend with family. "The cleaning job was never my first choice," she admitted one afternoon to her colleague Maria, who had become a trusted friend over the years. "But it gave me what I needed: balance, a way to keep connected to the plant without the constant deadlines and stress. I've stayed curious about the machines, kept my skills alive piecemeal, attending night classes and reading manuals whenever I could." Her choice to dress simply or remain in a lower-profile role was less about hiding and more about peace. Kate found comfort in the routine, the steady rhythm of wiping down conveyor belts and keeping her section impeccable. She liked knowing that even if no one noticed, she played a vital role in keeping operations smooth and safe. That afternoon, as Kate wiped down a machine that had once frustrated her with its complexity, she allowed herself a small smile. It was this same machine that earlier had come to a sudden halt, its silence sparking the tension and undercurrents she had felt all day. Now, after fixing the breaker, it hummed steadily again, a reminder that knowledge and quiet strength often lived just beneath the surface. The day's events had unexpectedly shifted the social dynamics around her. Kate noticed more nods of respect from the production crew and even some of the interns she'd encountered. Though the grins and jokes had faded, a more subtle curiosity lingered. People seemed to sense that they had misjudged her, perhaps for too long. That evening, the small breakthroughs in understanding brought a blend of relief and validation. Kate didn't crave praise or spotlight. Instead, she valued the simple acknowledgement that every role, no matter how seemingly modest, holds importance and deserves respect. Later, as the parking lot emptied and the factory doors locked behind the last workers, Kate thought quietly about the layers of her life. Outside the factory, she was a mother, a friend, and a student, one always hungry to learn more. Inside, she was the keeper of order, a guardian of cleanliness that whispered safety and efficiency. Her story was not one of grand gestures or dramatic turns but of steady perseverance and quiet dignity. She believed the world had enough noise and chaos without her adding to it. Instead, she chose to make her mark in subtle ways, letting her actions speak louder than any title or uniform could. Her life, much like the machines she tended, was a series of interconnecting parts, each essential to the whole. And sometimes, a simple role could conceal a strength far greater than expected. As she locked her car and glanced back at the factory's darkened silhouette, Kate felt a quiet satisfaction, a small but persistent glow deep inside. Tomorrow, when she returned to her routine, perhaps the world would see her a little differently, not as just the factory cleaner, but as someone whose quiet wisdom and resilience had quietly held the plant together. The following morning, the atmosphere at the factory was noticeably different. The usual chatter had an added layer of respect. The casual greetings exchanged between workers held a newfound warmth. Kate walked through the entrance with a calm confidence, feeling the subtle shift around her. It was as if the invisible walls that had separated her from the rest of the team had been gently, but irreversibly, pulled down. Michael, the brash intern whose laughter had once rung sharply at her expense, avoided the usual carefree smiles and jokes. Instead, he appeared more subdued, casting quick glances toward Kate as if measuring something he had overlooked. The afternoon after the machines went silent, he had sat alone in the break room, replaying the scene where Kate had calmly solved what he and the other interns had thought impossible. That moment had unsettled him deeply. Later that day, Michael was called into the manager's office. The stern expression he encountered as he entered told him this wasn't a casual conversation. The plant manager, Mr. Ellis, was direct but fair. "Michael," he began, voice measured, "your behavior towards Kate during the factory tour was inappropriate. Mocking a colleague, underestimating their contributions, and creating an uncomfortable environment for all parties isn't acceptable here." Michael's cheeks flushed, a combination of shame and embarrassment sinking into him. I didn't mean any harm, sir. It was just a joke." Mr. Ellis shook his head. "Jokes are only acceptable when everyone involved feels respected. We value respect and professionalism here. I'm issuing a formal warning, and I expect better conduct moving forward." The worst part for Michael wasn't the warning itself but the quiet realization that respect was earned, not demanded. And he had failed to extend it where it was due. Meanwhile, word of Kate's quiet heroism spread beyond the factory floor. Supervisors approached her with offers to involve her more closely in machinery upkeep, not to change her role, but to recognize her expertise and benefit from it. Though Kate declined invitations to advance formally, preferring her current place, she was grateful that her skills were acknowledged and valued. That afternoon, during a brief team meeting, the manager praised Kate's quick thinking. "Kate showed us all the importance of every role in this plant. Her expertise saved us valuable time, and we are fortunate to have her with us," he said, earning genuine applause from the gathered workers. Kate stood quietly, a gentle smile playing about her lips. She hadn't sought recognition, but embraced the acknowledgement with grace. Around her, the factory floor felt more connected, less divided by roles and assumptions. Later, as the day wound down, Michael approached Kate hesitantly by her cleaning station. His posture was awkward, hands fidgeting, but his voice sincere. "Kate," he began, "I want to apologize. I'm sorry for how I treated you. I judged you unfairly and didn't see how much you knew. You earned my respect today." Kate looked at him thoughtfully, sensing the genuine change beneath his words. "Thank you, Michael. It takes courage to admit when we're wrong. We all have blind spots." They shared a quiet moment of understanding. It was a turning point, not just for Michael, but for the entire plant community. As Kate finished her day and prepared to leave, the weight of the past week seemed lighter. She walked with the soft assurance of someone whose worth was no longer invisible. The machinery sang its steady song, but now, alongside it, was a harmony born of respect, knowledge, and newfound appreciation. Later that evening, Kate sat by her kitchen window, the city lights twinkling beyond. She reflected on the day's events, the awkward apologies and the unexpected support. It hadn't been a dramatic victory, but a slow and steady unfolding of understanding and change. Her phone pinged gently, a message from Michael, "Thanks again. Looking forward to learning more from you." She smiled. Kate typed back, "I'd be happy to share. We all have something to teach and learn." Before closing her phone, she paused, then added, "What would you do if you were in my shoes? Share your thoughts in the comments below." With a quiet nod to herself, Kate felt ready for whatever was next. The factory was no longer just a place where machines hummed and floors were cleaned. It had become a space where people saw each other, truly saw, and where respect and resilience quietly but powerfully reshaped their shared world. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories. See you in our next story.